Naruto is one of the most popular and successful anime of all time, very comfortably and deservedly sitting alongside Bleach and One Piece as a part of the big three. A story I can revisit over and over and still feel the same glee and excitement from certain moments as I did on first viewing. I skipped the fillers because, well, I watched some of them, although I just started skipping the episode or the filler arc once I started to get bored of it, because, there was a lot of them, and we'll get back to that topic of filler later. And I made my way right to the final episode, or final chapter I guess, since it never actually got animated for whatever reason, and what an incredible journey it was. But that journey was not over yet, and in fact it's still going to this day, with what I think is fair to say is one of the most controversial stories out there, but not controversial due to its quality of storytelling. Enter Boruto. The story follows the son of the guy we spent so many chapters and episodes alongside in a much more technologically advanced world that is supposedly at peace, and to get right into it, I think it's actually okay. The manga, that is. The anime is a whole different beast, but the manga, which I am up to date with, has my interest. Maybe more so now more than it ever actually has. I'm starting with this not to say that Boruto is amazing, but just because Boruto does not have the best reputation in the anime and manga community, with a pretty large chunk of that being built on the notions of people who haven't actually read it, which doesn't seem fair. But is there actual reason to why Boruto isn't as popular as its predecessor? And to answer that, we need to go back to the end of Naruto. I was not around to witness it firsthand as it was happening, but from what I learned later on, I think the fanbase was happy not to see it go, but to let the story rest, if that makes sense. Coming off of the Colossus that was the fourth great ninja war, an arc that had its high points and low points. I can see that as amazing a series that Naruto was, it was maybe time to close the book on this story. So when Boruto was announced, again I wasn't there for that either. There was the movie and the manga and the anime. It's like the saying, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain in a sense. No one wants to see the phenomenon that inspired so much turn into the butt of every joke, and unfortunately disregarding the actual quality of the story Boruto is telling, whether good or bad, it has become just that, the punchline. Even when someone is making fun of or joking about another series. So from the get-go, or before anyone has started it, there's a lot working against it. So I don't only want to sing its praises as if it's the best thing ever, just to dispel that stigma the story has around it. A large chunk of the franchise's fanbase deciding not to read and only really getting involved when the main characters of the original do something. Naruto and Sasuke versus Momoshiki, Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen, Naruto versus Isshiki. There doesn't seem to be many upsides for the old school Naruto fans to try and convince them to dive in and give the entire thing a go. There is the shift in setting. I have never been a fan of the changing of a story's aesthetic to something more modern to show progress or something like that. It took away a lot of the charm of the world. Similarly to how Korra adopted this steampunk vibe, I've just never personally been a fan. And another thing was that I knew the previous main characters who I'd grown to love would be sidelined, but more than that, they would most likely be on the shorter end of the stick to prop up Boruto, the other new characters and the new villains. And now as for actually getting into it, there's the anime and manga. I watched the anime since Naruto, then Shippuden, then Boruto. It just made sense for consistency, watching the anime the whole way through. I don't regret it, but a lot of filler, a lot of anime canon which is pretty much filler. It's not gonna be the best watch when what you are watching is inconsequential to the main plot. You can always skip the filler, obviously, especially now that the anime's initial run has ended or gone on hiatus. And if you really enjoy the presence of sound, voice acting and music like me, then go for it. There's also the topic of the visuals, the animation in the anime, the art style of the manga, where both get a lot of stick. Firstly, the anime, it can be rough at times, but if we're focusing purely on the canon episodes, it's not bad. Everyone's seen the viral moments like the big fight scenes because they're visually stunning. But you still have to remember that it was a weekly anime, so it will have its fair share of low points. And as for the manga, it's nothing special, but it's clear, you can tell what's going on. I'm not too familiar with the Naruto manga art style since I did watch the anime, so I can't really compare the two. but I would say that how bad people are saying it is definitely overstated. I think for the majority of people, the manga is definitely the way to go. Like I said, there's the new aesthetic to the village. There's a burger joint now, although I can't remember if that's from the anime filler or if it's actually a thing. And the other big change and big plot point that comes with this advancement are the scientific ninja tools that at first I despised. It looked to me as if all the training that the characters went through in the original was now redundant, although they have grown on me. I won't get into too heavy spoilers, but with how they've been utilized with the characters of Kawaki and Amado. And that's just kind of the story of Boruto's life. Not really given a chance. People not liking it on face value, not getting a good first impression and just giving up on it. And then that's the story of pretty much any spin-off, sequel series, adaptation of any beloved franchise. Thought process of is it necessary or do we need it it's a fair point, it's not completely unjustified. The reasoning of why not just let it end where it does, but that also immediately plants that seed of negativity where a sense of nihilism is placed rather than that of optimism, where I think the viewpoint in these circumstances should be always to give it the benefit of the doubt. And if it fails catastrophically, you can laugh at it with the original, which is still and always will be there to go back to. And in Boruto's case, being caught up, I think it does deserve the benefit of the doubt. I've talked about how it had so much working against it from the get-go, the drawbacks of the anime and my own personal problems with it, but guess what? There's still more division to get through, and that's with the titular character himself, Boruto. People do not like him, or did not like him, I think, is maybe more accurate. He's a spoiled brat who doesn't understand anything. I did not like him. The way he just seemed to act out of turn on any occasion. I see things differently now, but then it's hard enough that he has to follow one of my most beloved anime protagonists ever, but to write him in a way that isn't necessarily bad, but that would get on people's nerves nonetheless was certainly a choice. Looking back now, I understand that this behavior is exactly that of a kid born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but does it still annoy me? Yes. Although I do understand, as I'm sure everyone who's read the series understands, that the whole point is that Boruto is in the exact opposite position that Naruto was in. One had everything, the other had nothing. Naruto gained everything and Boruto, as of right now, has lost everything. The manga right now, in my opinion, is at its most intriguing for Boruto's character, where he is absolutely facing his biggest trial yet. It's kind of funny that Boruto being a major part of why the manga is now standing on its own 2 feet in a sense is actually ironic, even though he's the main character, just because of how disliked he was at the beginning. I'm not trying to make out that it's really, really good. I'm not trying to say that everyone's doubts, skepticism, criticism is misplaced, because it definitely still has some problems of its own. Like, outside of Boruto and Kawaki and the original cast of Naruto, there's not much more when it comes to a compelling character cast. Not that there needs to be, I guess, given how focused the story is on Boruto and Kawaki, but it's certainly an area that could use some improvement. The power cliff is certainly something that can be an issue. Like, the heavy hitters of the 4th grade ninja war would look like absolute scrubs here. But all in all, just any praise, or more accurately, any criticisms you do have, maybe it's better to form them with your own experience rather than following what is the popular thing to do. Read the series, don't stop yourself from experiencing a possibly fun time. And if you still do have issues with it, at least they're your own thoughts that you've come to the conclusion with your own analysis. I mean, it should go without saying that you shouldn't constantly compare Boruto to Naruto. It's not doing your enjoyment of the series any favors. Of course, comparisons are pretty much inevitable, but just because Boruto does something differently or goes a different route to Naruto doesn't make it inherently bad. It's its own story just as much as it is a continuation. Right now is arguably the best time to get into it, since everyone, even non-readers, are aware of the tease of the first episode with Boruto and Kawaki in the middle of a destroyed Konoha. And we've just passed the time skip with Boruto Blue Vortex in full swing, fully up and running. It's by no means as good as Naruto, in my opinion, I guess I should still say, but that shouldn't come as a shock. But if you really give it a chance, there's a real possibility that you will still have a good time. Just don't go looking to criticize it more specifically, because if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. I do not read Boruto because it's a masterpiece in storytelling. I began reading it because of its attachment to Naruto, but I've kept reading Boruto because I've been having fun.